As late summer slowly begins to fade into autumn and you get the first hints of autumn to start colouring the leaves, then cut flower gardeners like you and me are faced with a dilemma. How can you transition into the colder weather whilst maintaining as many flowers as possible so you can still get flowers for the season and still take flowers into your home, but equally start preparing for the next season so that you're not getting cold and wet in the colder months? So in this video I've got the answer. I've got 5 top flowers that I use as late flowering flowers, plus 2 bonuses. With a bit of forward planning, if you arrange them right in your garden, you can leave them where they are till the last possible moment and prepare everything else around it, so you've got the minimum amount of space that needs finishing off right at the end of the season. So get ready to discover what flowers are going to help you transition into autumn. Hi, I'm Nicola and I'm a home gardener here in Shropshire in the UK, and I like to grow cut flowers for my home, but I like to do it as productively and efficiently as possible. So if you're up for making your gardening life a little bit more easier, then I'm here to help. So we're here in September. It's September the 27th, so it's the very end of September. We still have flowers flowering, but they are certainly coming to an end for a lot of them. So I'm in a dilemma. Do I prepare for the next season, or do I eke out the flowers that are still going? I don't want to be working, digging compost, pulling out plants, preparing soil, etc. when it's raining in October and November. So I want to get this done as soon as possible. I also want to plant out my hardy annuals as soon as possible, because I want them to be settled in the ground so that they're ready and established for the winter months. So I need to have space. I need to create space. I can't hold on to the last dregs of the flowers for much longer. Fortunately, I did a bit of forward planning and I have beds that have particular flowers in them, and I have a bed that is meant for the autumn. But I have enabled myself to be able to clear out some beds whilst keeping some together, and that will be my last flowering bunches for the end of this season. So let me walk you through my top 5 flowers that I use for late summer, early autumn flowering, so that I can prepare the rest of the beds ready for next spring. So the first one I'm going to show you is dahlias, the classic cutting garden flower. And it is, but it doesn't start flowering till late, but it will go on flowering until it gets hit by the first frost. So it is your absolute best friend in a late summer garden. It comes in lots of different colours, lots of different shapes and sizes, so you can choose what you grow and how you use it. So there's plenty to pick from, and they're super easy to grow and are so productive. It's something that I wouldn't be without in my garden. Interestingly, they are the last things to be lifted in the garden, so they do carry on flowering until, well, your first frost, so that could be late November here. Coincidentally, it's about the time that tulips need to be planted. So you could do a bit of forward planning there and make sure that the bed that you're using for dahlias is also used for tulips. So when the tulips get lifted in the spring, that's about time that you plant out the dahlias, so they can just keep flip-flopping between each other each season. Dahlias are my number 1 go-to for late flowers. The next one is Rudbeckia. Now Rudbeckia, I said last year, and it didn't start flowering until probably late September, October. Now it's a perennial version, so it could have been because of that, but this year again it started flowering relatively late. It has been flowering pretty much all August, still flowering now and still looking spectacular. That I would say can easily be used as a focal flower in an arrangement. The colour schemes are generally in the yellows, oranges, reds department, but I have this cherry brandy one is absolutely a star, and I think the orangey Sahara one is also fantastic. This is my first year of growing it, so as I say, last year it was flowering late and I didn't really use it much. This year I have cut it lot and there has been more flowers generated, so it does appear to be a cut and come again flower, so it will keep you going through until you want to finish it. So yep, that would be my second choice at the moment. Third choice would be zinnias. Now they, for me here in the UK, they are most definitely a later flowering flower. So you can't, it's an annual, the seeds don't get sown until later in the seed sowing season, and therefore the plants are later to flower. Well, that's what I find anyway. If you can get them sown and germinated earlier, you may have them earlier, but for me that seems to be the best way of doing it. So I sow them later once everything's really starting to warm up, and then I get flowers late in the season. And again, they come in a vast array of colours, from brights to more neutrals, in the lime green sort of thing, if we can call that neutral. I think in gardening green is always neutral. And reds and things. So you can go for the brights, or you could keep it more autumnal colours if you're planning for them to be your late season flowers and to go in with the Rudbeckias. So I like a lot of the queen lime colours, deeper reds and lime greens that just looked fabulous with different shaped heads. But when they're a greener one, they could even be classed as foliage. So they're generally filler, but again, it depends what you're putting them with. They have big enough heads that they could be focal flowers. It just depends on how you use them. But using them together with all of the flowers that we've got, that I'm covering now, I would say they're a filler flower in this combo. Number 4 is Cosmos. And who doesn't love Cosmos? Again, for me in the UK, they start flowering later than other flowers. It could be that we have colder summers, I'm not sure, but they are definitely later flowers. You still have them in August, don't get me wrong, and it may even start in July, but this particular Cosmos has only just started going. These were late sown flowers. So again, if you're planning ahead for your autumn season, then the later sown flowers will be the ones that you want. So you could, if you succession sow, have those flowers coming across later, so you have more variety. Cosmos will continue flowering. Again, last year they were one of my last to finish flowering. In fact, I think they were still flowering pretty much when the dahlias were in November. And even if they weren't in flower, the foliage is good as well. The frothy green fronds of the foliage just looks fantastic in an arrangement, along with the airy flowers that can add something extra to an arrangement as well. But they're tender, so they won't make it through the winter, so they can be left and just pulled up as and when. So if they are all contained, or certainly the ones that you want to keep for autumn flowers are contained together with the zinnias, which are also annuals, then it's an easy cleanup at the end. And my final top flower that I would have is, yet again, feverfew. And I never thought feverfew was going to be my go-to flower, but this year has been an absolute star. It was brilliant in the early season, and then I cut it back really hard, and it's flowering again now in the autumn. So I can use those again in the arrangements. They're small flowers, small daisy-like flowers, really adds a little sparkle to an arrangement, and it just adds a filler. So it just adds something different to the flowers, something more delicate than the flowers that we are doing now. Depending on your choice and colour of dahlia or cosmos, they may be absolutely perfect for you. So they were my top 5 flowers. So we're looking at dahlia, Rudbeckia, zinnia, cosmos, feverfew. Some are annuals, some are perennials, some are tubers. All picked to make it easy for you to have the minimum gardening to do when it's cold and wet. Now I have 2 bonuses for you that are flowering this year for me in the garden and will be used in my arrangements until they stop. Both are perennials, so you just have to take what you can get. The first one is geum. Now I have been picking this particular geum all summer long, and it just keeps getting better and better. I wish I could remember what variety it is. I've lost the label, but it was a decent sized plant that I put in, and it's flowered really well this year. The only thing with geum is that they generally come in the orangey peachy colours, which is great for autumnal colours again, but some varieties are smaller than others, so you do need to make sure that you're picking a variety that has longer flowering stems. But adding geums into an arrangement adds such a wonderful airy wildness about the arrangements I love. And the second bonus that we've got this year in my garden are my lupins. Now this is completely unexpected. I would not be expecting to see lupins here in a garden in the UK in September, at the end of September, but there we are. We have got flowering spikes now, and they're looking fabulous. I cut them back after I thought they'd finished. They are perennials, so they flower when they want to flower. You can't control it by when you sow the seed, but I cut them back and they are flowering again, so they will form the spikes in my arrangement. Again, next year we may not be so lucky, so I wouldn't put it in my top 5, but I'm really enjoying the fact that they're in my garden, so I can make use of them now. So there we have it. 5 flowers that I wouldn't be without in my garden, and that will keep my house full of flowers for the next few weeks as we get into autumn, and hopefully right through until the first frosts. My bonuses, of course, will add that extra which I love, and but can't be guaranteed as to whether they will flower in time. So drop in the comments below what flowers you have that see you through the autumn months whilst you're preparing your garden for the winter. Until next time, happy gardening.